This is such a clear and present danger to American democracy. This is such a clear and present danger to American democracy.
Robert Draper, he is back with more on his brand new book out this week entitled Weapons of Mass Delusion, When the Republican Party Lost Its Mind.
So, Robert, thank you so much for being with us. You know, Dr. Brzezinski was really a trailblazer in the field of comparative communism. And he said, you can't look at the Soviet bloc all the same. Hungary is different than Poland, is different than East Germany. You need to understand the nuances. Well, I think we should talk about comparative republicanism, because my theory has been there are three parties in America. You've got the Democratic Party, the Senate Republicans, and the House Republicans. And yes, the Senate Republicans are very conservative, even by historical standards. But the House Republicans, I think it's who you're talking about more here, the House Republicans are election deniers.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
They're conspiracy theorists. You have people that have been QAnon advocates who are going to be in very powerful positions if the Republicans take the House back over, which they likely are. Talk about those different. We'll talk about comparative republicanism even on the Hill.
Yeah, I like that, Joe. It's and certainly that's the case, although it's changing, right? I mean, Mitch McConnell has always been of the theory that the institution of the Senate manages to cool the passions of some of the people who come in, but I'm not convinced that that's going to be true with a Herschel Walker, with a J.D. Vance, and or maybe even a Dr. Oz for that matter. What's indisputably the case is that the House Republicans have really become a hotbed of this sort of MAGA way of thinking that has been itself steeped in disinformation. And you know, I mean, and Joe, this transcends Capitol Hill. The New York Times did this survey and found that 370, the vast majority of major candidates in the Republican Party, from governor and Senate to Congress and Secretary of State, believe that the election was stolen. And do they really believe it, or are they just saying it? What we do know is that the MAGA base, that is the gravitational pull of the Republican Party, believes it very much. And I'd actually be curious, since Elise has been spending all his time in Pennsylvania, to know whether or not she was hearing as well this kind of talk among swing voters and Trump voters. My guess is that it's a real preoccupying thing for them, this so-called election integrity issue.
Well, Robert, I wish I had a better answer for you that was more inspiring about the state of democracy. But of our group of 10 Trump voters, they all believed that the election was stolen in 2020 and had not moved beyond it. And we'll have some of that footage next week. With those voters talking about January 6th and how they did not believe it was actually violent and had really embraced the conspiracy theories after the event. Even one of the participants in the group who had actually been at the rally and had been at the Capitol on January 6th, and how the actual history of what happened that day has been completely distorted. And that's why your book is so important. And I guess my question to you would be, what do you do when it comes to countering disinformation when people don't care if it's disinformation and incorrect?
I can't think of any issue more difficult, any challenge more intractable, at least, than the problem, you know, the effort to try to disentangle people from, I mean, my title is Weapons of Mass Delusion, with heavy emphasis on delusion en masse, because unfortunately we really are talking about tens of millions of Republican voters who not only believe the lie that the election was stolen, but believe also all these adjacent lies relating to COVID vaccines, relating to January the 6th, as you just alluded to.
I know that he knows that this wasn't on the level.
And I wish I had a pat answer for you for how it is that people essentially become deprogrammed. I'm not a social psychologist, so I can't answer that. But I do think that what will have to happen over time is probably a succession of defeats in elections by Republicans. That's not, you know, anything I'm advocating. It's an observation that for ultimately establishment Republicans to say that we've had it your way, and all it's done is besmirch the party, and now we've got to restore some sanity.
So, Robert, we've got big lot candidates on the ballot this fall, obviously, but lots of Big Live representatives already in Congress, well more than 100 voted to decertify the election in 2020. And as we've been talking about this morning about Kevin McCarthy saying, well, we might cut off aid to Ukraine. Well, that's because it's in part fueled by some of these extreme MAGA types, the isolationists, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, who appear, if Republicans do take the House, appear to have pretty outsized influence in the new Congress.
So jarring that everybody that Elise spoke to
Oh, my God.
believed the election was stolen.
I believe that there were many funny things that happened in my election.
This is such a clear and present danger to American democracy. It's still, after all these years, it's just hard to grasp that people, their hearts could be that hardened that they aren't interested in the truth. They aren't interested in the truth. I can say that. I'm not being self-righteous. They're not interested in the truth. They won't even read Murdoch newspapers. They won't even read the very conservative op-ed pages of the Wall Street Journal. They'll believe freaks running websites out of their mother's basements are coming from overseas, and the truth just doesn't matter. And the fact that it is still so widespread and rampant really does show what John Meacham was saying, and we're going to be talking to him in a second about Lincoln and the Civil War. Yeah. It was close. It was close. Lincoln, most people thought Lincoln was going to lose for re-election, that there were going to be compromises that would have ended the emancipation of slaves. It was close. We're close now, too. We're close now, too, because people that we know and people that we love and people that we have respected in other areas of our lives are embracing anti-democratic conspiracy theories
and candidates.
And candidates and are willing to overthrow American democracy and free and fair elections because they lost one election. It's really depressing.
Illegitimate president, illegitimate president, illegitimate president.